Thanks, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So my name is Stephen So. As you can see in my team's description, I'm one of the directors for the Access to Justice Tech Network, and in my day job, am the head of AI strategy at Lander and Rogers. I'd like to first start the session by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and the people that join us today. I pay my respects to elders past, present, and I'm currently in my whereabouts in terms of the Wurundjeri Nation and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. So before we kick off our session today, it's our third year of the Access to Technology Tech Network. Whilst we don't believe that tech can solve everything, we do believe in utilizing it more effectively. So that's why we have sessions such as Tom's and the ones before to really learn about what we can do with it, its potential, and how it can really help us. We're running these regular lunch and learns to really bring our community together and keep in touch in a regular basis. Your presenter today is Tom O'Doherty. He is the head of innovation and connections at Justice Connect, where he leads the intersection of technology, law, service, design to improve access to justice. No pressure there, Tom. Big expectations coming out of you and the session here. So with more than 15 years of experience across legal services, digital delivery, and service transformation, he specializes in creating secure, user-oriented systems that create both clients and frontline legal teams, that support both clients and frontline legal teams. If you did want to ask a question throughout the course of the presentation, please put something in the chat. We'll be monitoring and looking out for that. So over to you, Tom, and thank you for joining us.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for the intro. I'm on the lands of the Palo people of Latrito today. And yeah, it's great to be here presenting to the Access to Justice Network as well. I'm going to talk about transforming intake with artificial intelligence. Just going to present here as well. I'll just share my screen. Great. So just kind of kicking things off. So I'm Tom O'Doherty, as Stephen said. I'm head of innovation and connections at Justice Connect. Been at Justice Connect for about 6 years or more now, just focusing a lot on the digital innovation side of things. For those of you who kind of don't know, Justice Connect, we're a not-for-profit. We provide legal support to people who need it, to help seekers. And our vision is a world in which legal support is within everyone's reach. This slide is just a little bit about what we do at Justice Connect, kind of from the innovation side of things. We have a small team and we've got lots of different projects and products now. We've developed a number of different tools over the years. People might be familiar with the Pro Bono portal, for Manager, and various other tools as well. We also have award-winning, a few of them are award-winning pieces of tech, and then we enable quite significant amounts of pro bono. I'm just going back to that vision world in which legal support is within everyone's reach. I think that's really key to the way we think at Justice Connect and why we focus so much on digital technology. I think the next slide shows that, we recognize that there's a huge amount of unmet legal needs out there. And that services are stretched. It's always difficult from a budget side of things at a not-for-profit. So with that rising unmet legal needs, from an innovation perspective, we see a lot of potential with digital tools and now more and more AI as well. And that's why, as an organization, we have focused quite a bit on innovation. Just in terms of the people on this slide, you can see here 89% of people use the internet daily, but 2/3 of people could not characterize the problem as legal, and then less people can, characterize it correctly as per the specific areas of law. So these are figures from Pulse, the Pulse survey as well. So I suppose one of the key things then for us is how do we help those people? And AI has come up in over the years, especially in the last number of years. We've been looking at AI at Justice Connect since about 2021. And we've been developing our own model, and that's part of what I'm going to talk about today, how we developed that, why we developed it, and then why rebuild our intake tool as well. Because I think it's not only, how does AI, how can it potentially help us, but, why do you redevelop something like an intake tool, and what are the key points there, especially around the user experience side of things, that AI can be great, but you really have to get the user experience correct as well. So looking at some of the frictions that we saw in the intake experience, we developed our initial initial intake tool, so basic intake tool, back in 2018 or so. And that worked really well for us. So we went from 0% of people coming through those types of channels to up to 75% of people now come through the intake channels. So we've seen a real shift in people moving towards more of a digital experience. And our current intake tool, we did a lot of analysis on it. We sat down with a lot of people as well, and got feedback from them. And one of the key things that we saw on a kind of continual basis was that people, once they got to that screen that asked them, can you select the area of law? They had difficulty selecting that area of law. They wouldn't know what to choose, and a lot of them would just drop off and not get the help that they would need. So we knew that was quite a significant issue at the time. We could see those drop-offs at that point as well. We even tried to, change the areas of law into more natural language that people might relate to in a better way. And even then, we still saw that there was a lot of drop-offs. So we knew there was an issue there. Also, there's other issues with the intake. After a number of years, we saw that the linear journey flow just meant that once people went down a certain pathway, if we couldn't help them, it'd be a dead end, and they wouldn't get the help that they could potentially need. Then high cognitive load, but it also added to the referral roundabout as well, which is, we're telling people to go to different services that may or may not be able to help them, and then people end up getting frustrated and not then again getting the help that they need. So we then, at that point, we decided, yes, we have this key core issue that people don't understand, their legal issue. What do we do about it? And that was at that point in 2021, we started talking to Melbourne University and the team there that were looking at natural language processing, which is a specific type of AI, quite different from LLMs. And I'll go through that a bit more, the difference there. But natural language processing focuses on analyzing natural language and then being able to classify it into different areas, in our case, into different areas of law. So we started working with them. What they saw, I suppose, with us, and I'll just go to the next slide, at Justice Connect, was that we already had a lot of samples. So we collected a lot of those samples through our intake tool at the time, which was a huge bonus for them. So we would collect them. We'd also de-identify those samples. Then we had the ability to build a tagging game, and that was core to this as well. So we had the samples. We needed skilled professionals to tag those samples, and we had that network of lawyers, which was fundamental, really important to this project, because having those lawyers being able to tag this up, we knew then we could get really good and accurate results with this. So we went from the collection, we built this tagging game, which you can see parts of it here. Lawyers would log on and identify the area of law with sample text, and then highlight the text that relates to that area of law as well, and then submit it. Then we package all of that up and we would give it to Melbourne University. So just one thing about the model, I think this picture hopefully illustrates it quite well. It's built on the BERT framework, which is a Google model. That's based on the book's corpus. So that's where all of the language samples are taken from, and that's the base of it. And then our data layer sits on top of that. And that's over 30,000 annotated help seeker samples. And that's what we call the Justice Connect model that we use. Now, over the years, we've continued to improve this model, and I'll go into some detail of how we've made this, and the key focus being around it being a responsible and ethical model as well, and making sure it's trained on samples from a wide variety of groups within Australia, and making sure that everyone is represented within that. So I think that comes to the kind of point where we had this AI model, we had integrated it into we integrated it into our previous intake tool, and we saw really positive results. So you can see that here under the integration section. So our something else selection was down significantly, down by 20%. Partial entries were down by nearly 50%. We look at this as really a really important figure, because we see it as people having more confidence, because the AI tells them, actually, yes, you may have an issue here that we can help with. So partial entries, so people then continue to fill out the form and submit versus having those partial entries, which is great. And then conversion to service up 10%. So we saw it working very well within our old intake tool. We still had some of those friction points that we saw previously that I mentioned in terms of linear flows and that sort of thing. So that's why we decided to build our own AI-enabled assessment, intake, and triage tool. And that looks like something like this. So I might just actually give a quick demo of this tool. I will stop sharing this for now and show you what it looks like in real life. So this is the intake tool. If people are looking at this, you can play with it, but please don't submit anything, because it actually is live and goes through to our paralegals. So I'm going to add a position description here of the legal issue that I've created before. So it says, I worked as a caretaker and lived in a flat provided by my employer. When I got sacked, they told me I had to move out straight away. I'm going to say it's in Victoria. And what we wanted to do here is make it really simple, right? The goal of this is to give people as much information as quickly as possible in an upfront way, without having to add too much detail themselves. So really simplify the whole process, so they wouldn't have to go through a lot then to maybe potentially be rejected from the tool further down the track, which we got a lot of feedback from our previous tool. So I'm just going to click Get Help here. And this is where it engages the AI. So it's accessing the API, it's querying it with that. And what it does then is, so it sends that to the API, it comes back saying, this looks like an employees and volunteers issue. It also looks like potentially a housing and residential tenancies issue. So it's picked up both of them from this one sample. It also gives a likelihood here. So the model returns a percentage likelihood of accuracy. It says 96% most likely to be employees and volunteers. But this is where, help seekers have a choice as well. We don't tell them that they should go one pathway or the other. They're given the information to make the decision themselves as well. And we think that's a really important part of it, is trusting and then enabling the help seeker, building their practical legal capability as well. So we talk to them about, what this legal area is, how Justice Connect can potentially help, and then eligibility as well. So we tell them, for Justice Connect services, these are the criteria. Do you meet them? Then apply. We also have, and this has been a really interesting one for us as well, the not eligible side of things. So we actually see people using this quite a bit, because I think a lot of people come to Justice Connect, might have a general issue and not really know where to go. So they might realize, actually, Justice Connect service isn't the one for me, but there are others here that they've recommended. And then they click on these and potentially go to those ones and those services and get help there. They can also click on this one as well. If they think it's more relevant to them that it's housing and residential tenancies, then they can go in here as well. There's also a manual, you might have seen it in the previous step, but people can manually select the areas of law as well if they want to circumvent the AI. So it's very much an assistive thing, the AI that we use here. I think what's great as well is that we have the self-help resources. So these are all relevant to those different areas of law. So they will change when I click on them and bring in those relevant self-help resources for those areas of law. We also flag the free online tools that we'd have that could help people as well. So this is kind of the very quick overview of what the tool looks like, but then it goes, if you click apply now, it will go into a normal form people can fill out. We've tried to make that as brief as possible, but really have this is a menu for people so that they have different options. We just give them those options. They don't have one linear journey. They're told this is what we think your issue could be, and because we've identified that area of law, we can give you more specific self-help resources, specific eligibility criteria, and more specific places to go if you're not eligible from Justice Connect, from the Justice Connect side of things. So that's what the tool does. I'll show you another version. I might show it now while I'm sharing the screen. I'll do something similar. So this is talking about the future, and this is maybe something I'll come to in time. But we're always thinking of ways of how we can build and develop this as well. And we're looking at potentially giving an AI summary overview of different self-help resources. So I might come to that if I have time as well. Okay, going back to the presentation. I think one of the interesting things is around impact as well. So what does this actually mean? What have we seen over the last, so we deployed in August and we went up to 100% in January of people going through the tool. So I think it's just really interesting to see what we have seen in terms of impact. You'll see from a intake distribution side of things, and as I mentioned previously as well, that external service is quite popular. So what this is saying, where do people go when they get to the tool? When they get to that page, the menu page, where do they go? I think it's a really big positive that, and I don't think you can see this one, but it's drop-offs. So drop-offs are actually really low within the tool. Usually people go down one path or another. So a lot, of course, will go to Justice Connect services where we can help them, but then a really significant amount would go to external services. And this is really positive, I think, from a help seeker perspective. They could go through the application process, Justice Connect, and then that will take a little bit of time for us to triage, and then they could potentially be told that they're ineligible and then suggested those services. So now it's really giving some of that information up front, similar to self-help resources and then self-help tools. Self-help tools being a lower number because our self-help tools are very specific to certain areas of law as well. So I think really positive that now the intake distribution isn't just Justice Connect service or nothing. It's not 50-50 of people dropping off and going to service Justice Connect. People now have a pathway. Other significant impacts, less than so -1 day. So triage time has been reduced by 1 day, which is quite significant in terms of lawyer and paralegal time. 90% of users stick with the AI intake tool, so they're given the option of using the old tool as well. So that's really positive. As I said, 75% of inquiries now come through our online intake, which means it's important. It's a really good process for people, and they get the help they need as quick as possible. And we've integrated into 3 of our tools. So, of course, intake, Pro Bono Portal, and our self-help resources. Just some, I think, really interesting qualitative feedback. People really liked the style of having all the information there. I didn't have to search around. Everything I needed was there straight away. Really interesting one from our user feedback sessions was that I feel more comfortable with AI. It doesn't judge me or gossip about me, which I think was a little bit of a surprise to us, because I think there can be nervousness around AI, but I think this goes to show the shift and the expectation, I think, of people for us to be using AI tools as they use them in their day-to-day life. And then finally, it was clear, calming, and uncluttered, which again I think is important for help seekers, that they're given this information in a very clear way. So some kind of key impacts there. I'll just talk quickly about some of the way we've framed the way we look at AI over the years. And we call it justice by design. And this kind of encapsulates a few different points, and it's very much around it being, our AI model not being biased, being fair, having people's data privacy kind of at the top of the list as well, and then it having a beneficial social impact. One of the key ways we did this was around bringing in data from other groups, from different underrepresented groups. So obviously we'd have some data on it, but we talked to other organizations who would have language samples. They would de-identify them and send them to us, just so we could make sure that this was accessible for everyone within within the community, and not just people who so if BERT has been trained on standard language, we want to make sure that everyone has kind of been included here. That's a key point. And then vital role of human oversight, which is really key for us. So human oversight, I think, especially when we talk in terms of our AI and LLMs as well, that it's a really key thing for us to look at and make sure that there are humans in the process all of the time. For our AI intake, we review all of the obviously all of the intakes that come through to us, but all of the ones that don't come through as well. We look at them and make sure that it isn't behaving abnormally. But then also it's just a key thing for day-to-day work. I added this example because I asked ChatGPT, draw me a picture of what human oversight might look like. And as you can see, it looks on the face of it like nice diagram, but then actually, it makes no sense basically. So human oversight is really key to the work we're doing. Just going to finish up soon. I think collaboration across the sector is going to be key for this to avoid duplication. And I think we're stronger together as a sector in lots of ways, especially with AI and the rapid progression of AI. And really key to share learnings, and opportunities like this are great. Then the future of AI in justice. So I think it's all about that no one size fits all. As you can see, we had a really specific problem that we tried to fix. And I think that's how we look at it, Justice Connect. What are those problems? Is AI the appropriate way? It may not be, and digital tools may not be as well, but we need to identify what the problem is and use things like AI for those specific problems. And then building the capability. I think we're really trying to do that at Justice Connect, and just more broadly than the innovation team as well. Right. I think I have 2 minutes left. What I might show quickly is just some of the next things we're looking at. We are thinking about LLMs, how we could potentially use LLMs. And one of the things we've been working on is our RAG, so retrieval augmented generation. I will quickly show. So this is our staging site. What I might do is, so this is very similar, right? You saw the intake tool previously. Now I'll put in the same prompt here. I'm going to click Victoria again and click Get Help. So this is one of the things. So retrieval augmented generation focuses on pulling resources. That one didn't work, as LLMs don't. This is in obviously in staging at the moment, and we're working on it. So let's just try another one around. Something simple like that. And it's thinking here. So what this does is this pulls information data from our own self-help resources. So this is really just looking at our self-help resources, pulling that information out and giving a kind of overview of it. So it really is a LLM sitting on top, though, of our own data. It doesn't use any of its own data that they have. It's very much ring-fenced around our data and our resources as well. What it does is it pulls in that data from the different resources and tries to answer. Obviously, mine's very high level, but it tries to answer as best can based on what's inputted in there as well. We also have all of the sources for this data as well, so it's very much defensible. Right. I think that's what I wanted to go through. Did we want to look at questions? I think I'm at time, but did we want to look at a few questions? Take a look. Stephen, William might be able to.
Two
Yes.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you make this? I guess how do you translate this to everyone? And then Kate had a question on the volume of applications that come in through the tool.
Yeah, on the first point, so there's a few things we're doing. We have made the API accessible to people so people can play around with it. They can also access something like what I've shown on the internet so they can take a look at it. I think it's about that information sharing. We do a lot of blog posts, things like that. Hopefully this will be available to people as well. And they can adapt some of these learnings. We're always happy to talk to organizations within the sector. We're also looking to maybe build our intake tool into a more generic version so other organizations could potentially use it. Yeah.
And then the volume.
That's a good question. Yeah, we get hundreds a month, so it obviously depends month to month. But yeah, off the top of my head, it's a couple of hundred a month or so.
Great. I think that's all the questions that I see in the chat, but thank you, Tom. Please feel free to reach out to him if you have any questions outside of this. So if you signed up and followed us to be informed about the Access to Justice Technology Network events, you'll see an email soon notifying you about the details of our next event. We're hoping to schedule that in the 6th of May. So we hope to see you all then. And thanks again, Tom, for hosting us. And we will catch you in the next one.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, everyone.